This morning's guest is here to remind you to remember the Confederacy. You'll remember her forever. Who is she? You'll meet her coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Design It Retail Furniture Gallery on Highway 501 in front of the new Hard Rock Park. We're focused on the upcoming Memorial Days, both the National and the Confederate Memorial Day. And we're visiting with the past president of the Maxie Gregg chapter of the United Daughters of the Confederacy, Ann Powell. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Isn't it exciting to get you back in? You were last with us
I
at
wasn't
a
going to
hardware
say
store.
back. I was just going to say, Greg, I am so glad to be here.
The first time out.
Yeah. I didn't want people to think I just hang around here all the time
we
worrying
love it. We like to have groupies.
But I wanted to tell you how happy I am, to have this chance.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say that I just think South Carolina is the greatest place in the world to live and work.
Yes.
And I think it has a bright future. But I also think we ought to remember the past.
Right.
And that's why I want to talk about two Memorial Days.
Absolutely. Well, a big celebration, of course, to get you here and all week. Earlier this week, Russell Holliday was with us on Monday promoting next Monday's
Gallivant's Ferry.
132 years
Absolutely,
of stump
absolutely.
Former Congressman John Jenrette was with us yesterday,
Yes.
obviously talking about the stump.
He used to stump. He used to stump
a lot, all over ORE and all over the PD when
Yeah,
he served his 3 terms there in Congress. And then, of course, tomorrow we've got a very interesting guest, a Chief Deputy of the Horry County Sheriff's Office, Paul Butler, an Ainer native.
Oh, good.
And interesting, we're wrapping up the week on the grand opening of the Hard Rock Park right behind us with one of its local investors, a local CPA, Tim Duncan. So you're right here in the hump day, the middle of the week here on Wednesday.
And isn't it wonderful to bring up the future, the Hard Rock, and then to bring up the past, the Gallivant's Ferry stump and Memorial Days and everything.
Absolutely.
So South Carolina has a bright future, but it had a historical, glorious past.
Right.
And we ought to remember it.
May 10th's a big day. This Saturday's a big day.
Big day.
Celebration.
In Florence, it's 11 o'clock, and I think they chose 11 o'clock, Lona, because when I was a girl growing up, it was Armistice Day, and there's a World War Memorial Monument in Marion.
Right.
So we marched to the monument
with
flowers, and so it was Armistice Day. And now, of course, beside the two Memorial Days, there's Veterans Day that they honor, but you couldn't honor veterans enough. And then there's Armistice. They still remember that.
Right.
But anyway. Well, I want to give you a little history of why Memorial Day started, both the National and the Confederate.
Please.
It started because of the war between the states. Right after the war, the ladies started going and putting flowers on the graves. And later on, they heard that the ladies in the North were doing the same thing. And it became known as Decoration Day.
Is that right?
Decoration Day. And so we don't know where the first one began, but this widow, Confederate widow in Columbus, Georgia, claims to be the first that started an actual Memorial Day. Now, others may disagree with her because they like to claim that Richmond thinks they had it, different places, in the South.
Sure.
But she still thinks that, and so that's all right. And
you'll give it to her.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. And so National Memorial Day started in 1868 when a Northern Army veteran, head of this organization, decided that May the 30th should be National Memorial Day.
Okay, sure.
But going back to Confederate Memorial Day, we felt like at first they decorated the graves, and then it came into mind that we should honor all the soldiers and the sailors that served, because some endured the war and came home. They came home crippled, they came home sick, they came home impoverished. They came home to homes that had been burned, farms that had been ravished, and cities that had been destroyed. Atlanta, I mean, you know, and smaller ones destroyed. So we felt like that they should be honored too. So from then on, we honored all of them.
That's tremendous.
And so we think it's important. And the reason...
You brought some notes with you, even though you don't need them, man.
Yeah,
you were just fine working from trying to follow note cards. You were very clear. I want viewers to know that you're very lucid and wouldn't have to look at notes here.
Yeah, just don't tell them my age, and then they'll believe I'm lucid here, you know.
I just, you got notes here, which is great. I'm glad you can share those, but please feel comfortable just sharing with us.
Well, the reason that we think it's so important is because 71,000 volunteered for the cause.
Wow.
And this is what I might need the notes for.
Sure.
20,000 died. That is more. 20,000 South Carolinians died. That's more than the Revolution, the War of 1812, World War I, World War II, Korean, and now Southeast Asia.
Right. Everything.
And so we think that's important. And do you know that there weren't but 55,000 military age men to join, to go? But when we honor the 16,000 of the old men,
right,
the black men,
right,
and children. You see, my grandfather volunteered at 15 years old.
At age 15?
At age 15.
Boy, Ann.
And so those are children.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you know, might not think so now, but they are. And so we lost all those men, and that's why we think it's important to remember. And
that's the celebration this Saturday, the Confederate Memorial Day.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, and it remains separate from the other. But we also attend the national. And of course, in Florence, we always go to the National Cemetery.
Okay. Yes.
Did you know that Florence and Beaufort are the two locations of the National Cemetery?
In the entire state?
In the entire state.
Wow.
And of course, I feel close to that day because I had a brother that fought in World War II, and I had a husband that fought in World War II.
Right.
And so I feel very close to that. But of course, when your grandfather was 15 years old and volunteered toward the end of the war, you feel close to that. And my grandmother was in Columbia when Sherman burned Columbia.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Man, boy.
And so,
Were you ever old enough when she was telling stories?
No, I don't remember any grandparents,
right.
but I heard from Mother, you know. And I
sure.
think I told you before that I heard the fairy tales and all the literature that children have read to them, but I also heard the stories of the war and the Reconstruction.
Right.
And so, and I don't know why, but my family felt very strongly about everything, but I don't remember Mother going to meetings. I think we felt like we had our own UDC in our family in our living room, that we didn't have to go anywhere. You know?
Yes.
And so I actually didn't join until after I was married in Florence,
right?
you know, and became active.
You lived in Florence for how long? Amy?
Oh, very long time. I've lived in Florence longer than I lived in Marion, but I still call Marion home.
Marion is home, yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to write.
I hear you call Merle's Inlet home
I
as well.
do.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, you don't say anything about Marion that you can't bring Merle's Inlet in.
Right.
My Aunt Addie was in a wagon and went to Peachtree Ferry on the Walkamo, spent the night, crossed the river, and got to Merle's Inlet, arrived at Merle's Inlet the next day. No. And so people in Marion have just always called it, gone to Merle's Inlet. And there's a section in Merle's Inlet that is called Little Marion.
Little Marion.
Little Marion,
yes,
you know.
Yes, I think I've heard about that from the late Charlie Speth or Cathcart Smith.
Yeah.
Some folks
Cathcart, yeah. Well, I'm trying to write a memoir, just growing up in Marion, you know, and I'm sort of doubtful about the title. I call it "I Live in Florence, but I'm from Marion."
I like it. That's a good. Absolutely, that would work well with many of the local press.
You know, it's just a part of. It's just a part of it. People just always.
I live in Florence, but I'm from Marion.
I live in Marion. I mean, I'm from. I live in Florence, but I'm from Marion. Yeah.
I love it. Well,
Yeah.
Pete Sealer, our the Florence sales manager for Fox TV and the columnist for the Myrtle Beach Herald, who does our TV talk column, has built a great relationship with you, and of course reminded us when you were with us in August that, Greg, you just didn't get enough out of Ann. She had so much more to share.
Well, but see, he didn't know. He thought I would clam up, but he was He was surprised.
He
I
was
won't say agreeable,
pleasantly
surprised, you
surprised
know.
that hardware store got it out of you.
But anyway, I love to talk about. I don't live in the past, but I love to talk about it, and I wouldn't. I don't like to be old, but I wouldn't take anything for growing up in the time I did.
I love it. Speaking of that, growing up in Marion, you attended college in Hartsville, I believe.
Coker College.
Coker College, great, and then ended up back in Florence much of your life. But I think I saw you got a master's in library science. Was it at the University of Georgia?
Yes, yes.
Great. So you have had a love of library science or working with librarians.
Well, let me tell you about the Marion Library. It's the oldest next to Charleston in the state.
In the state? The Marion Library?
The Marion Library.
I didn't know that.
And the librarian lived with us. And so I just grew up in that library.
Right.
And summers, you just couldn't wait for summer, you know, to read. Yeah. And here I am now on television, and I'm going to say something that I shouldn't say, but I really am glad that I didn't grow up with television, because I may not have been the reader that I was.
That's totally fine. Absolutely.
And I love television now, and I wouldn't take anything for it. But thinking back, I just am glad that.
Now, what do you like on TV, Ann? What do you normally watch if you're not watching Carolina People? Of course.
Well, and I love to watch things about the state.
Sure.
I really do. I hate to admit it. I don't hate to admit it. I watch old movies.
You
because,
do. Not soap operas.
No, I've never watched a soap opera in my life.
Good for you. That's
I mean,
right.
you know, there are too many actual soap operas that you can see every day
in the
on the street.
Sure, sure. That's
so,
right.
no, I don't do that. But I love the old movies because, I mean, you know, who wants to look at these young men now? They look like they need a haircut or something. And when you can look at Clark Gable and Cary Grant, and see, I'm probably saying names you don't even know. You're so young.
Come on now.
You're so young,
you know those names.
But and the movies, they have a story. They have a beginning and an ending, you know, and it's just so I hate, you know, I really do. But of course, I love to watch the news, and I keep up. I try to keep up with everything, everything.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have gotten politically, politically involved as I did, but. I don't know how it happened, but
you really did get involved. I saw, and of course, but there was a time you were working with the libraries there in Florence County for a good while.
Well, I supervised the elementary and helped set up some of them with qualified librarians.
That's wonderful.
And I was so glad. And going back to TV, I went in the children's library department thinking that all the children watched TV and didn't read, but you know they do still read.
Oh yeah.
And it was the greatest pleasure to be sitting behind the desk and the children come in and say, "Oh, Ms. Powell, I read the best book. Let me tell you what I read." It was the greatest feeling in the world.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And you still love a library. Florence has a magnificent, the Dr. Bruce and Lee Foundation.
Yes.
We have filmed there. Yes.
Oh, have you?
Absolutely.
Oh.
In the beautiful Florence Public Library.
Yes, yes.
What is it about a library that still tickles your fancy, Ann?
I don't know. It's the books. It's the books.
Yeah.
It's just the reading the books, you know. I know that's what it is.
Now, do you have a lot of books at home, or do you normally just go to the library for your books?
Well, no, actually, I have right many at home, and people, friends give me books.
Is that right?
And I should go to the library more because it's just close by.
Right.
But I do. But
sure.
I just love to read.
Are librarians still getting as passionate as they used to be? Or is library science still a passionate field? Is that something?
You know, I think so, but I don't want to say. I don't know.
Because
I know
of the web and TV and other things.
Yes,
that
and
distract
I
people.
doubt that I could work in one now with all that, because I'd be so distracted with trying
The internet.
to with figuring all that. You know, that just that hand to hand and that stamping those books and when they were due. You know, and telling the children about it.
So with the librarian living in y'all's home while you were growing up in Marion, that really spurred your interest?
It really
It wasn't
was.
your parents who said, Ann, get out of here, go to the library?
No, you see, I was the last of 5 children, and
wow.
and mother was quite old when I was born,
Right.
and so I think she thought with my maid aunt, old maid aunt, we didn't call her old maid, but maiden aunt, my father's living with us. Right. She thought that I'd be taken care of, which I was, you know. And the librarian was Nellie Ellaby, and a long time ago, they dressed like a librarian. They had a black velvet band around their neck. She wore every day, you know. And she just, and then my cousin Eloise McLucas worked in the line. And, you know, you just wanted to be there. And do you know that in 37, 38, a film crew came and filmed the Marion.
In the late 30s?
Yes,
and
they called and said for me to come to the library right away. And I put on my little new coat and went, and they filmed me in the library. And
Man, we ought to track down those records. I'm surprised Pete Seeler hasn't tracked those down yet.
Well, you know, I don't
You may get it on eBay.
Yeah.
And in the library.
And in the library.
That sounds like a good book title, too. And in the library.
Yeah.
That
So,
is fascinating, Ann. And you still love the PD and share with us real quick, we got about 7 or 8 minutes. What about the ceremony this Saturday? You said 11 a.m.
Yes.
Where do viewers want to come?
They want to come to Mount Hope Cemetery.
Mount Hope Cemetery.
The Confederate
This is
monument.
in Florence?
Yes.
Mount Hope
now,
Cemetery.
they will have other ceremonies
Around the state.
Around the state.
Right.
And the big one is the first Saturday in May in Columbia.
This past Saturday, okay, right. In
And
Columbia.
so that's why we tried to move around, but we still wanted to be as close to May the 10th as we could.
Right.
And it's right at 11 o'clock, and I tell people that we start on time, and it's not more than an hour, and we have a speaker, and then you'd be surprised at the number of Confederate veterans buried in Mount Hope.
Oh, boy.
And the sons always help us, and they put a flag at each grave.
Is
The
there
sons of the
United
Confederacy.
Sons of the Confederacy as well?
Yeah,
right.
the sons.
Right.
And they decorate the graves with a flag. And so we have that day set aside. We place a wreath at the monument there.
Right.
But I'm sure there'll be something in Dillon, maybe in Hartsville,
Oh, yeah.
maybe Conway.
Probably so.
There's a
Sure,
chapter.
sure.
There are.
And there's one in Marion as well?
No, I can't. Now there's a monument, a
Okay,
beautiful
sure,
monument
sure.
that I used to play around.
Right.
But there's no chapter. The closest chapter is Dillon.
Right.
And before, I think I gave you the numbers. They're around, maybe 125,000 members.
Is that right currently?
And well, we don't know. I haven't gotten an
Right,
update on
sure,
that, but
sure.
somewhere
Well,
along.
you've got some young members you share.
Yes,
with us, right?
and I had a call last night that there were 12 young women that wanted to join the chapter in Dillon.
Is that in Dillon alone?
Yeah, and
Wow.
I was always, I could not believe it. And I don't think that it's not that people don't want to join and bring up the, but they're so busy with their, and they have to make choices. They have to make choices.
Oh, yeah.
And as everybody said, I know what Ann's choice was, you know. I just chose to work with that.
But you have to have some lineage down
Oh,
to be
yeah,
able to
yeah,
join.
you have
It's
to
very
prove it.
particular. You
Yeah,
can't
you
be
have
just
to
a
prove
friend
it.
of the
That's what
family.
yeah,
It
yeah.
has to have a proven lineage.
Yeah, you have to
a
have
member
the
of
document
Confederacy.
show.
Right,
Yes,
right.
yes. Uh-huh.
How exciting for you, Ann. Is there anything else that really keeps your passion? Obviously, the love of the library, the love of books.
The love of books.
The love of the UDC.
Yes, and I love gardening. I love
to garden.
and I wouldn't say I'm a bird watcher, but I do watch a lot of birds. Before your time in Myrtle Beach, there was an Ocean Forest Hotel.
There was, yes. That
And,
was before my time.
My family and I worked down at Merle's Inn that summer. They were to tear it down.
Wow.
And we came every single day, and we bought everything we could from the Ocean Forest Hotel.
Is that
And
right?
I have 3 windows out of the ballroom.
I'm going to tell Jack Thompson that. You know, the photographer who took the photos that last day.
I have 3 windows out of the ballroom, and so they're huge. They had to be adjusted for my audition, but it's a grand place to watch the birds.
Wow!
And there's usually at Murrells Inlet. We used to see a painted bunting all the time.
That's your audition in Murrells Inlet. So you're home in Murrells Inlet has those. Oh,
in Florence.
In Florence. Oh boy! So Jack will have to travel.
Yeah, he'll have to come all that way up to the PD. And it's a grand place. I have the best bird show in town because the windows are so large.
Yeah.
You know, you can see. So I keep them feeded.
But
I love the outdoors. I love that.
Before they closed down.
Oh, we bought tables. We bought chairs. We bought deck chairs. We bought pewter chandelier I have.
Wow.
And, you know, we just kept going. And finally, the young man from Atlanta that was head of the demolition part, he said, you know, Ms. Powell, we can't just keep on and on and on. We've got to do it one of these days. And I said, well, I don't want to be here. Yeah. And it was perfectly beautiful. You know, Greg, today, if the Ocean Forest Hotel was still here, and so now like the man investing in Hard Rock
Park,
there would be investors, and it was built at the wrong time, it struggled at the wrong time, and it really tried, but it was mad. It would be another Greenbrier, another homestead.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Have you seen pictures of it?
Oh yeah, from Jack Thompson, absolutely. Before and after.
It just was the saddest thing, but it you know, it hung on for a while. But my older sisters would come down to dances, and then we would ride over from the inlet, and we would hear the bands, you know, playing and singing. We would come in and there. And I went to several conventions, library conventions there.
But the day for about how many years? Do you have any idea?
Oh, from 30 to that was...
Not to put you on the spot, and obviously you're not here to talk about the Ocean Forest Hotel, but when you say about it in the light of a Greenbrier or a homestead, when you think about hotels like that, it did make it through some tough times, and obviously, thankfully so.
Yes, it did.
Thankfully so.
Well, I think maybe from 1930-something to 73, I can't now remember exactly when it was torn down.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad. I was not well, and so I couldn't come down for the last things we bought, and so I didn't see them actually tear it down.
I didn't. So your memories are very vivid of the facility itself.
And very vivid of Myrtle Beach. I was 6 years old when a friend of my mother's came and said, I'm taking Ann to Myrtle Beach so she can see the ocean for the first time.
Wow. And there are still folks, Ann, who've never seen the ocean. There are folks who come down to the beach for the first time still. Folks throughout the county or throughout the PD.
It's the truth.
Who live this close to the ocean but have never driven down. There really are.
Yeah. Did you hear the story about the old mountaineer from Tennessee that came down? His daughter brought him down.
No.
And he just sat there and looked, you know. And finally the daughter said, well, Papa, what do you think it looks like? And he said, it looks like a big old mountain. He said he'd been in the mountains all his life, so he said it looked like a big old mountain, you know. But anyway, you know, it's a wonderful area, Greg, and it's a wonderful state. You know, I haven't traveled a lot, but I have traveled some, and they're beautiful places. But this is home, and I really would if I had a choice. You're a big cheerleader
for the state. We ought to get you in touch with the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Department.
Yes,
Chad Prosser and that crew to introduce you as a big cheerleader.
Well,
for the state.
And I've been cheering a long time.
I bet the Florence Area Chamber of Commerce, or the Marion Chamber, even the Murrells Inlet area, the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce would love somebody like you.
Well, you know, you can't believe it. You know that one day I was sitting behind those big windows, Ocean Forest windows, and I was having breakfast, and I looked out and I said, you know, those are 2 of the biggest dogs I have ever seen. Do you know they were deer?
No.
They had come up that
in
close.
Your backyard,
yes. Well, I'm in some woods. I'm right in the middle of Florence, but I'm in some woods.
Wow.
And I called the wildlife people,
yeah.
And he came, and he said that the deer were making homes behind this restaurant that was down the street. And he said, do you know what have you heard the rumor, Ms. Powell? And I said, no. He said, the deer heard that it was unlawful to shoot a gun in the city limits, so they've moved in and left the hunters out in the country. You know? So
we're running out of time, Ann. Just real quick, 11 a.m. this Saturday.
Yes.
What are folks going to? They're really going to experience a memorable.
Well,
ceremony.
no, it's May the 10th.
May 10th.
May 10th.
Yes, this Saturday, May 10th. So what are folks going to experience?
Well, they're going to experience reliving the past for a little while, for an hour, and remembering the names. They call out the names that are in the cemetery, and a good, inspiring speech, and just reminiscing about it, and not forgetting what it was a sacrifice. It was a big sacrifice, and so that's what we try to recreate.
71,000.
Yeah.
71,000.
Yeah, and 20,000 dead. More than any other war. More than any other war.
And thanks so much for being with us
Thank
this
you for
morning.
having me. Thank you for having me.
Good luck this weekend.
Good way to start a morning.
Absolutely. Great way to kick off Wednesday. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Ann Powell of the United Daughters of the Confederacy. Coming up next. Why should you be involved in helping to observe Confederate Memorial Day this Saturday at Mount Hope Cemetery there in Florence? You heard Ann share it, the heritage, the investment of time, but also all those incredible volunteers. 71,000 South Carolinians volunteering for the Confederacy. 71,000, but you heard her share that stark number, 20,000 lives lost. 20,000. That's the reason to get out there to observe Confederate Memorial Day this Saturday, 11 a.m., Mount Hope Cemetery in Florence. If you're traveling up from the beach or coming in from Marion, follow 76 to Dargan Street. Take a left, follow it till it dead ends right there at Mount Hope Cemetery in Florence. Take the time, 11 a.m., get out there this Saturday, be a part of it. As Ann wanted to share before we ran out of time, this very special quote, "No nation can long survive without pride in its tradition." And tradition's very special to a lot of folks. Get out there this Saturday, 11 a.m., to help celebrate the lives of so many of those amazing volunteers. Ann Powell, thanks so much for being with us.